This is a ManeHustle Media podcast.
Yo, this is Sharmane from the Single Simulcast. And when I'm not making you laugh or making up parody songs, I'm kicking back, listening to Militantly Mixed.
Whew. Hi, and welcome to Militantly Mixed, the podcast about race and identity from the mixed race perspective. I am your host, Sharmane, aka Mixed Girl Maine, and we are about to get into it. So I just got done editing the episode that I'm introing right now, and so I'm still all in my feelings about it. So bear with me through this intro because it might run long, and then that'll push the episode long, but there's a lot of feelings. A lot of feelings. This is an interview that I recorded 6 months ago, maybe a little bit over 6 months ago, and I struggled to find a place to put the episode. So basically, I said before, I record a bunch of interviews and then I sort of curate the show based off of what's either going on in the world at that particular time or what I'm feeling or what, maybe speaks to me more. And I have a list that's sitting here in front of me on my desk that has everybody I've spoken to. And I'm familiar with everything that we talked about and things like that. And then, if that's what I'm feeling right now, that's what I'm putting in. And around the time I was originally going to place this interview, things kind of took a turn towards sort of like empowerment and positivity and things like that. And so I just sort of had these like episodes after episodes, I think kind of starting with Mixed Up Mama and Mixed Up Clothing with Sonia King Smith and Caitlin from the Melanin Collective and stuff like that. So I just had a bunch that were more geared towards empowerment. And so I started building the show around those. And then also the white passing topic kind of came up a bunch as well. So like the last 3 or 4 months have been sort of about things like that. And it made it harder and harder then to place. I do have still about 2 or 3 interviews from about 5 and 6 months ago that I haven't shared with y'all. And this is part of the reason is that I'm having a hard time figuring out when to place it in what Militantly Mixed has become over the last 8 months at this point. And so I was finally ready, like, you know what, we got to get these interviews out there. These people took time out of their schedules to speak with me. And this guest in particular took a lot of time because his original interview had terrible sound quality and people in the background making a lot of noise and things like that. So we basically re-recorded a third time. And when we did that, we ended up going totally in a different direction from our 2 original conversations. And that's what I'm going to share with you today. And the topic that we end up going in, we definitely start out like a normal Militantly Mixed episode where we kind of talk about my guest's upbringing and things like that. And then it veers off into the subject of the N-words. And I'm saying words with an S at the end because I think it is still unclear to a lot of people that the 2 words that you think of when you hear the word, the N-word, in quotes, are actually 2 totally separate words. And those are nigger, the racist phrase with the hard ER that is used against black folks all the time by racist white folks and others, I guess. And then there's nigga with the GA. These are not the same word. And I know that people seem to, for whatever reason, think that they are, even though, whether or not one derives from the other is a totally separate issue. We have to understand how these 2 words are used. And with that, you end up understanding that they are actually totally different words. The word nigger is a racist word that white supremacists have used against black people to enslave us, to subjugate us, to beat us, to put us in prisons, to kill us, to rape us, to dehumanize us. All kinds of disempowerment and disenfranchisement. That is what the hard ER word is. Nigga with the GA sound is not necessarily a word that means a black person. It can mean 11 billion different things. It can be my friend, my nigga, that guy I want to fight, that nigga, that, it could be, there's so many different things, oh, that funny person, that's a funny ass nigga. There's so many different ways that this word is used, and it doesn't necessarily mean a Black person. It could just mean a person that you engage with. I grew up speaking this word, even though I don't present as dark-skinned or Black presenting. I am Black featured, but not Black presenting. I grew up using this word in my neighborhoods, in my family, in my childhood, and things like that. I still use, but I use it in places that I understand my mixed-ass face is okay to kind of say it. Only because of all the incorrect beliefs and thoughts about this word. So, the topic of this episode veers off from mixed raceness towards the N-word, ER, and A sound, because of a story that my guest tells about a girlfriend that he had at the time. And this part of the conversation is what also made it hard for me to figure out where to place it in the grand scheme of the militantly mixed stories. And that is because there are times in the conversation that we are talking about this particular racist white ex-girlfriend that doesn't sit well with me while we're talking about it. And I go silent at times and things like that. And in the re-listening of it, I started to feel those same old feelings. And it reminded me why every time I thought, okay, it's time to put this episode up, it was difficult. Partly, and I figured out why. I've been sitting on it and thinking about it. I figured out why. Partly because I needed Militantly Mixed to grow enough that people were familiar enough with me and sort of my maybe value system or the way that I am, the way that I talk, the way that I show my empathy to my guests, things like that. I needed the audience to be familiar enough with me so that when they hear these words that tend to block your mind the second you hear them from being able to understand what comes next, I'm hoping that with you having the knowledge that you have of me now, having listened to the show for 7 or 8 months, that you get what's happening here. That we are two people of mixed race, both with mixed Black heritage, who have different experiences of both the G-E-R and the G-A of these two words. When my guest talks about it, he's talking about it from a racist experience with an ex-girlfriend. When I talk about it, I'm talking about a racist experience with a friend that I had in 3rd grade. When we're talking about the ER. When we're talking about the A, we are talking about it as both a term of endearment or a term of fighting or just a word that we use. And I really, really, really hope that the audience understands when they listen to this episode that what you're listening to is the difference between use of a word and mention of a word. When we are talking about it in this episode, we are mentioning the words. We are not using them. They are not being used to attack or to endear or anything. They're just being mentioned in stories about experiences that happened to us. And at no point do we turn around on each other and use even the GA word. We don't even use that one towards each other as a term of endearment because we were focused on what most people mean when they hear the words the N-word. We are focusing on the intention and the usage of nigger with a hard ER. And when he describes the experience with his ex-girlfriend, she's using the GA word, but she's intending the ER word. So I really, really wanted to put that up front ahead of the episode because I think it's important that once you hear it, you don't shut down and you actually listen to the rest of it, especially for my white audience. And the reason why I'm singling out the white audience in this case is because I know that this word terrifies a majority of white people so much that they don't actually understand it. I hope that explains it a little bit to make it easier for you to get through this episode. The other part of that is that this episode is not negative in any way. It's not negatively intended. Our rapport is of two people who are mixed race who have an understanding of our mixedness, our otherness, even within our own communities. And so this is actually sort of a healthy and healing conversation. It's just that there are times when what we're talking about is so dark, it has the potential of shutting down listeners or making a listener be like, oh, with everything that's going on in the news or whatever right now, I don't even want to hear this. I really, really want you to hear this, though, because I think it's an important aspect of race and identity in general. And for the purposes of militantly mixed, the experience of these two words through a mixed Black person or mixed Black people in this case. Okay, I really don't want to get into it a little bit more. I'll let the interview speak for itself. But one other thing I do want to say about this episode is that because I recorded this interview so long ago, and now I've done the show, every week for 8 months or whatever, the Sharmane that I was when I was recording this and the Sharmane that I am now is actually quite a different person. My perspectives about certain aspects of race identity and racism have altered throughout the course of speaking to such a wide variety of mixed people around the world. I have insight now that I didn't have before. And so while listening back to this, another reason why I'm kind of in my feelings about it is because I'm not always in agreement with the woman that is speaking here, and that woman is me from 6 months ago. So it is kind of strange. I definitely feel a sense of growth that I didn't, I knew I have been growing. I just, unless you got to hear back what you were saying before, we don't often get windows into who we were in our past, not clear windows where we actually get to see or hear who we were. And in this case, it's only 6 months ago, but I can hear that I had a different opinion than I have now, or a different even experience of my own mixedness or my own relation to otherness or racism than I did back then. It's actually quite amazing, and a whole nother element of why I love Militantly Mixed, because it does give me so much exposure and gives me the opportunity to improve myself just by having these conversations with mixed people around the world. So it shows me that I probably do need to get these older interviews out sooner rather than later so that I can go back to sounding like the Sharmane that I am currently when I release these episodes. So, yeah, I was in my feelings. I'm feeling a little bit better now that I've prefaced some of the things I was concerned about. One thing that I'm thinking, I did ask the question on Twitter about white people's knowledge of Emmett Till, and I am very sadly surprised. I don't know why I'm surprised, but I'm surprised that white people aren't aware of who Emmett Till is or was, and his relation to the civil rights movement, his tragic murder and torture by being falsely accused for whistling at a white woman. It comes up in this episode, so you'll understand later, I guess. So we may have a to be continued next week, and where I deal with the kind of things that have come up since then, because I did put it out on Twitter and my personal Facebook. The thing he mentions about Emmett Till surprised me so much that he wasn't aware of it until him and his mom was doing research on police brutality, that it's really got me on this kind of personal, I need to know how much exposure white people have to the stories that black people have about what triggered the civil rights movement and what got us trying to fight for our humanity. So next week I do already have an episode planned, but if I get a lot of responses on Twitter, which I've already gotten a couple, and I've gotten some on my personal Facebook, if I get a lot more though, I probably will deal with this topic a little bit further next week in sort of a depart from a normal Militantly Mixed episode. So at the time I'm recording this, I do not know for sure if that's what's going to happen, but it may. If you would like to weigh in on this subject, the topic of the N-words or civil rights, the impact of different events like Emmett Till on the civil rights movement, or the lack of information that maybe white people have, maybe you heard it just now and you're like, I better research this, and you want to come back next week and tell me about what you discovered or your feelings about it. I want to hear about this. You can send me messages via any of our social media, of course, Twitter and Instagram. We are at Militantly Mix, and facebook.com/Militantly Mix, where we have the page. And of course, you can always email me directly, Sharmane@militantlymix.com. That's S as in Sam, H-A-R, M as in Mary, A, N as in Nancy, E, at militantlymix.com. But I would really prefer and love it if people called in and left voicemails about their feelings about this topic. You can call into our Skype line, 323-545-6001, and just leave me a voicemail. If you leave a voicemail with a question or a comment or something like that, I will put it in the show. If you want to talk a little bit further and the voicemail cuts you off after a couple minutes, go ahead and leave me your contact information and I will reach out to you and we'll get this discussion going, because it's riled up something in me. I need to work it out, and if you feel the same, I would like to work it out with some of you, because the Militantly Mixed experience, I don't want it to be just me dealing with my issues of mixedness. I really want this to be a global thing, and everybody participates and everybody shares. That's why I speak to other mixed race people and have them tell their own stories. That's the other thing I've noticed in this episode. I now know to listen a little bit better and not talk as much. And in this episode, I probably talk a lot more than I do now to my guests. You know, mostly I let them tell their stories and I sort of interject where it makes sense. But I was still learning how to do that back then. So there's a whole lot of learning that happened in this episode, or me listening back, that I realize I have done since recording it. All right, enough of that. We're already 15 minutes into this intro. Whew. Okay, my guest this week, his name is Sean. He is of Black, Japanese, and Melungeon and white heritage. He primarily grew up with a white experience, though. He has a white mother and a white stepfather who has been his dad his whole life, so that is his dad. His white father really tried to cater to his blackness and try to help him have an identity of understanding in blackness as much as a white father can. So we do talk about that a little bit, but like I said, we end up veering off into the topic of the N-word. So we may get Sean back in the future and kind of have a proper militantly mixed discussion, but it was important to share this topic because it is such a huge part of race and identity. And I think ultimately the audience, you'll have to tell me if you feel this way. I think ultimately you'll appreciate hearing the experience that mixed race people have with racial incidences or racist terms and things like that. I think it's important. So, all right. So with that, let's go on to my interview with Sean. All right, thank you for joining me, Sean. Why don't you go ahead and tell the audience a little bit about your background and your upbringing, and then we'll get into it.
Okay, my name is Sean. My ethnicity is African American, half white, and Japanese and Melungeon. And my upbringing, without within being mixed race, was pretty uneventful. I really didn't have too much racism brought against me in my life. Of course, I've met some racist individuals. I'm pretty sure we all have. I grew up in a pretty diverse neighborhood. You know, there was a couple pockets of black families, Hispanic, white. So it was pretty diverse. I didn't get, the traditional black upbringing with a black mother and a black father. My father wasn't in the picture, so I got mostly like a white upbringing, so to speak. And moving through that whole moving within a white community was a little bit interesting, to say the least, because when I was younger, my mom would hold my hand as we were walking through the store, and people would ask her if I was hers or if I was adopted.
Yeah, that is such a common theme with the parents that I've been talking to so far, is that if the mother is white, they assume the child is adopted and like congratulate them for being like, so like, oh my gosh, you're so generous that you adopted this little brown baby. And then if the mother is a person of color, then it's, are you the nanny of this child? Are you authorized to have your hand on this child? Like, jeez, kind of not loud.
I agree. I think that, it's kind of a problem. I don't think that it should be like that. I think that people should just kind of not really bat an eye at that and just kind of go along about their day.
Yeah, like just keep your opinions about the parentage of this child to your damn self and just be
exactly.
like, oh, that's a cute little boy.
Yeah, it's like, oh, he's kind of cute. But my mom, one time we were walking through a grocery store parking lot, and I was holding her hand, and I guess I had like strayed off, and I accidentally walked right in front of this lady's car without even realizing it. And this lady gets out of her car and starts screaming at me. I mean, not because I was like black or not because I was mixed or anything. It had nothing to do with race, but I think it was just this lady kind of lost her fucking mind.
Right.
And my mom, being the person that she is, she's very what is the word I'm looking for here? She's very outwardly.
Okay.
She's got a very outward type of personality. She likes to talk to people, and she's very protective.
Okay.
So once this lady started screaming at me, my mom got right in this lady's face and just started screaming at her. She's like, "You do not scream at my child. The hell is wrong with you?" But yeah, my upbringing was pretty interesting.
So when we talked before, you said your father had sort of been out of the picture since you were around 2, so you don't have a whole lot of memories of childhood with him. But your stepfather, who is a white man,
yes,
made a lot of efforts to, if not inform your blackness, at least always make you aware of, in terms of safety, of different ways that you were going to have to navigate the world that your brothers weren't going to have to.
Exactly. Yeah. No, he didn't. He still continues to do it just to make sure that, and throughout my early 20s, he's kind of still done that and tried to make sure that I have some awareness of where I am in this world and kind of where I fit in, I'm kind of grateful for the parents that I do have, because I know that, I don't know what your experience was growing up. I know a little bit about California and where Long Beach is. Mm-hmm. The only thing that I really know about it is that Snoop Dogg's from there.
Same neighborhood.
But what I've noticed is that some females, or some white females who make babies with black men, they either don't understand the full ramifications of what they've just created, or they try to diminish and bog down the fact that they've just created basically essentially just a light-skinned black child, or tell that child that they're not black.
Well, I mean, the mix, the biracial kids that I grew up with that were black and white, and whether or not the black parent was present, and I'm speaking specifically about white mothers, they tended to embrace the fact that they had the mixed child, but they didn't take care of the mixedness. So, like, you could always tell the mixed race kids versus just light-skinned black kids, because the mixed race kids' hair was crazy, and because white mothers never learned how to do black hair.
No.
Or, things like that. So I never had the experience of seeing a whole lot of white parents of mixed kids behave as if they didn't, like, as if they weren't aware that their child, or they weren't going to allow their child to be aware of their otherness, or their POC-ness. So that is different, at least from my upbringing. But usually the people that I knew that had mixed race kids embraced the culture that, like, lived within the culture of what their child was. So,
of course, like
my mom, she's biracial, Japanese and white. My dad was biracial, black and white. We usually lived in black areas. My mom, to this day, my mom sort of, like, she performs black ghetto-ness, even though she's Japanese and white. So she'll sometimes say things like, "Why you be tripping on me?" And then you'll look at her like, you look white, calm down. Or she also does black hair, exclusively does black hair. So she's, she's a hairstylist, and she's trained to do black hair. So had I come out with, more hair that was more black-like, I would have been fine. So in her case, like, she's very different because she's also biracial too. So she, she was already, she comes up with an upbringing of being, like, aware of culture being different,
Of course.
So in that case, I am a different experience. But yeah, I talk a little bit more about what you're talking about with the white parents not really embracing the POC-ness of their children.
By that I mean, like, they're kind of not really, they're kind of like make the children choose,
okay.
Which side they want to associate themselves with or be identified as, and that's kind of a problem for me, because
in most cases, we're not allowed to. It's whatever the population has decided we are.
Yeah, or the census boxes that they put us in. It's also society too, but I think it's also kind of they want their children to look more like them, I guess, per se. So I guess that they have a easier time going into this world, which I can kind of understand that, but at the same time, that kind of plays a big mind fuck on them if you're putting them into a situation where, well, my skin's brown, my hair's crazier than holy hell, but I'm not white. I know I don't look white.
Yeah. You'll never be accidentally assigned white.
No, not ever. But for the children that are mixed race and do have more European type features, and their skin is a lot lighter, their parents tend to make them look more white, which is kind of a problem, because you can't really do anything with their hair you could put relaxers in it and you can make it straight completely, but these kids, they'll they have this piece missing, or they have this piece that was denied to them, and that's not really okay, because you're kind of setting your child up for failure.
Yeah, I mean, like, every child is going to go through a bunch of different versions of identity crises. It's of course, like, as you go into puberty, and as you're this, and am I attractive, am I not attractive, like all that kind of stuff. But then if you have to tack on, you also have multiple cultures, to account for, and racially you may not look the way you are ethnically. I mean, I think that's something you and I talked about before, is that, like, if I'm on the East Coast, people think I'm Dominican or Puerto Rican. If I'm on the West Coast, they think I'm Mexican or Filipino.
Yeah.
None of those things am I. Like, I don't have any of those ethnicities in me. And so racially, I'm assigned something that I can't connect to. And in your case, to me, your coloring is very similar to a typical black and white biracial person, but your face, your features, I see black, I see Japanese. I'm also more sensitive to it because I'm black and Japanese and white also.
Of course.
But I would imagine 9 times out of 10, someone thinks you're some kind of Latinx.
Oh, no, without a doubt. I mean, they take one look at me. I mean, not even just my facial features, not even just my nose or my eyes.
Your
they
hair.
Just look at my, well, even my hair was I would imagine that would be like kind of a dead giveaway, because, what Mexican do you know that has a big ass afro?
Well, no, I mean,
some of them do.
Yeah, there are some, but in terms of, like, just assuming that you're some sort of Latinx, they would go with Afro-Latin, you'd be Dominican or Puerto Rican, something like that, something that has a high Afro-Latin population.
Of course.
And I imagine your eyes confuse people a lot.
Oh, yeah, no, they do.
When I first looked at you, I remember you sending the message saying that you were also black, white, and Japanese, and I was like, oh my gosh, I've never met another black, white, and Japanese that I was related to. But by the time I saw you, I think I was just thinking biracial, black and white biracial. So when you popped up on my screen, I was like, that dude's got some seriously Asian eyes, because here's the thing that sucks about doing this podcast is that I ask everybody that I'm interviewing the questions that I admonish white people for asking us, because we're talking about Miss Race, I have to ask, like, what's your ethnic background? Where are you from?
Yeah. I mean, like, it's kind of like a flip switch thing, but instead of a white person asking, me what I am, I have another mixed race person ask me what I am. Which
it's a weird bond thing too. Like, it's like, I think we were talking about before, it's like playing punch buggy when you're a kid. You see another person who has mixed features or skin tone that doesn't necessarily match the face, and you're just like, you must be like me. Whether that means that we're both black, white, and Japanese, or whether that means that, like, you're Mexican and white, or this person's Asian and black, or this person's Indian and Chinese. Like, any mixed race person I see, I get excited, because I think they, more than anybody else, even of ethnicities that I'm mixed with, will understand my experience far more than a typical monoracial person, even though I grew up black and identify mostly as black because that was what I was mostly immersed in. I would still say this random mixed race person that I met is someone that can understand me a lot better.
Of course. Yeah. Of course. I think that whenever I see another mixed race person, I kind of like, I kind of get a little bit giddy inside, because it's like I see mixed race people, but there's not that many. So when I see another one, I'm just like, oh my God, yes, this is awesome.
Especially where you live, because you live in a very small area and already a very white space.
Yes, and it's like when I see another mixed race or color, or even a black person, just a black person, I get giddy as hell, because I'm just like, oh my God, there's another one of me. But I don't know if you've ever had this issue, but whenever I went to college, I went to Texas A&M in College Station, and there's so many different races there, like from black to Chinese to Indian to Puerto Rican to just every single mix imaginable.
You must have been like like Charlie walking into the
Pretty much. I was just walking up in that motherfucker, just like
there's black ones and Asian ones, and
there's a whole different, there's a whole melting pot here. I'm gonna get along great with everybody.
Oh no, probably awkward.
Well, no, it was awkward because people would like look at me and they'd be like, "What the fuck is going on with this dude?"
Oh gosh, I'm so glad you said this, because this is a part of mixedness that I try to explain to monoracial people that gives them the like twisty head that puppies give you when they're it's like, look, you walk into a space and you feel a certain way, right? So like in my case, I grew up mostly in Long Beach and also Sacramento. I grew up mostly around black kids. I grew up mostly immersed in black culture outside of my house. Inside my mom's side of the family's house, I was definitely Japanese, but everywhere else in my life, I was black. So I'm walking around feeling black, and then I walk into a black space of people who do not know me, and I have to pump the brakes on my performative blackness, right? So like, I have to answer the questions to make them be okay with me talking and thinking the way that I do. I have to say, I'm mixed race, and also I grew up in Long Beach, and also my experience is hood black, not just, other versions of blackness. And so then after that, then I get the stamp of approval and I can be myself. So I have to basically ask permission in spaces to be what I actually am. But that wouldn't happen amongst my own black people, like the people who know me. Yeah. And so my podcasting partner, Javia, who's on the Black Radical Queer podcast on our network, she and I, when we first met in person, so we had met long before through an internet group or something like that, and we had connected, and I knew I was moving back to LA. So when I moved back to LA, we got a bunch of women together to just sort of like a social event. And when we first met, like she already knew I was mixed and everything like that or whatever, but it was going to be the first time I was going to be around her and all these other black women. And so then I have to be I go into that phase where I have to like ask permission to be black. And it's just like the way I was, it's my own baggage from like the way I was raised. Every time I went into a new black space, I had to behave a certain way until I was given the stamp of approval. And when we recall that conversation, she says to me, like, you kept doing things that were like you were asking permission, and we kept going, this black girl needs to just be black and calm down. Like, everybody that was there had, and I was like, well, see, that's because like these women were different. They were more woke to what was going on in my situation, and they were more accepting of me because they could tell within a few seconds of me talking that I clearly have a black experience, and so they were very open to me. But I'm dealing with my own baggage of every time I enter a new black space, I have to
kind of sort of like prove your blackness.
Yes, and it's just something that mixed race people have to deal with, that you try to tell somebody who will never have to do this, like a monoracial white person, a monoracial black person, Asian, they're never going to walk into a space.
They're never going to have to do it because they take one look at that monoracially black person and they're like, okay, that guy's black. But then you take somebody who's of my skin tone or your skin tone, and we walk into somewhere like that, and they're like, well, what the hell are you?
Yeah, and it is true too, because in most cases, I am accepted by black people far quicker. Like, usually my face is enough because I do have black features, even though I have like a tan colored skin. Usually my face is enough, but then I still have to like explain, what's your background, what kind of black are you, so I can go into like the sorting hat tells me I'm hood black versus, like that kind of thing has to happen. And then we're good. With white people, I can be like, no, I'm half white. My mom's half white, my dad's half white, so I equal half white. And they're just like, yes, but where are you from? And why are you so exotic looking? Like all the things that people hear me say on these episodes over and over again that frustrate me. I'm more white than anything else, and I am less accepted as white by anybody. Like, it's frustrating that like a Filipino person can meet me in a store and accept me as Filipino just off sight far quicker than a white person will, when I'm like, look, here I have a British grandmother and a white grandfather. Like, I have white people that I come from.
I mean, like, I've always found it easy to kind of just move within that that space of being black as just of like, you know, just to try to educate people, I guess, on mixed race if they give me the opportunity to. But with moving around and, you know, with black people and being around black people, I've never felt like I wasn't accepted. You know, I kind of felt like I was always kind of like within the bigger, larger groups. I was always accepted. But the one thing that was kind of funny though was that I dated a white girl, which it's not that I have never dated a white female before. I have, but it was just kind of like it was new to me because I was just kind of coming into my own as a person and also as a mixed race person and kind of understanding what that meant. And then I've got this white ass girlfriend who has no fucking clue you know what she's stepping into because
she hadn't had that experience before either.
Exactly. And I had to kind of coach her to understand that, you know, that if people start looking at us, don't really take it as, you know, don't even pay any fucking mind to it. It's like, bullshit.
Don't get me in a fight because they're looking at us weird.
Exactly. Well, that too. I mean, it's like I don't want to have to kick someone's ass because they're looking at me because I'm dating a white female. You know, and the fucked up thing is that my white girlfriend told her parents that I was Mexican. When I specifically fucking told her, I'm like, hun, I'm black and half white and Japanese.
She actually thought, even though you told her the truth, she thought you were Mexican, or she just thought that was an easier way of explaining it to her parents?
Well, no, she didn't want to tell her parents that I was black is what it ended up being.
Oh, come on.
I know. I I didn't even find that out until she said something to me, or my friend did, because I guess that I had a girlfriend that was black, and like she was raised from like the hood, like out in Fort Worth, and that's like my best fucking friend on the planet. That girl is like rock solid as fuck. But her and my ex were talking, and she was like, yeah, I told my parents that he was Mexican because they didn't want me dating a black guy. I'm like, it was actually her biological father who had a problem with me. I'm just like, come on, man. Like, what are you scared of? Because I'm gonna make some mixed ass babies with your damn daughter? Like,
I mean, so basically, in their hierarchy, Mexican was a lesser evil.
Yeah, exactly. And I was
even a mixed race black guy.
Yeah, so when her parents finally met me, I had to kind of set the record straight. I'm like, I don't know what I don't know what the fuck she told you, but I'm not Mexican in any fucking shape or form. I'm half black, half white, half Japanese. That's what I am, and if you guys don't like it, y'all can fuck off.
Right. I mean, the bad side of that is like she put you in a bad position. Either she's trying to have you be a part of the lie, which is not fair to you.
No.
But it's also erasing who you are, which is another thing that we have to deal with on a regular basis. Like we already grow up, having not being visible as all the things that we're mixed with. And then on top of it, now you're telling me to erase who I am just so that I can get through this dinner with your parents.
Yeah. Or I gotta tone down the fact that I'm black. I mean, there's really and I told her, I'm like, babe, I can't wake up. Like, I can't go to sleep thinking that tomorrow I'll wake up whiter than holy hell. That's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
I don't know a better way to explain that to you. When I wake up in the morning and I look in the mirror, I still have to see brown or tan or whatever the fuck you want to call it. There's no changing that.
And this is the problem that we don't talk about, and we probably don't even have a name for it yet, which is the type of white person that will date people of color but are still racist. Like that act by erasing your ethnicities for the sake of her family is a form of racism. And
no, without a doubt.
And it's like, I know it's probably one of the things that people would call a microaggressions, but I would call that a fucking aggression. Like, that's not...
Yeah, no, I wouldn't even call that slightly a microaggression.
Right.
I would call that aggression.
And to basically, you're saying, I'm not good enough on my own. I have to perform this other thing to make you and your family comfortable. But what about my own comfort? like, just
Exactly.
because I have to deal with this on a regular basis, this is just one more thing I can add onto the pile, and it should be fine. That should be my decision, not her decision.
Yeah,
you know, that
no, not at all. And I mean, after I told them that, they were like, "Oh my god, I cannot believe she even fucking said that to us." Well, no, they were like kind of surprised, but then they kind of like just brushed it off and kind of just put it under the rug after that. And then they kind of like, they stopped talking to me for some reason, because after I broke up with their daughter, because she was verbally abusive and just horrible to me. And I tried so hard to help my ex understand, like, what certain things that she couldn't say to me, or just, in the general vicinity of me being around my friend Alasia. My friend Alasia would come in and like she would come in and be like, "What's up, nigga?" I'd be like, "What's up, girl?" And then my girlfriend would like look at me. She'd be like, Did she just call you a nigga?" I'm like, "Yeah."
I mean, why wouldn't she know that your friend could do that?
I don't know. I guess she was just stupid about it, or just didn't bother to ask. and so she thought it would be cute to pop off and say the word nigga. And I looked at her, I was like, "The fuck did you just say?" I was like, "Just because you're dating a light-skinned black dude does not mean that you can say that." I don't give a shit. Like,
they want the wristband. They definitely want the wristband.
I'm like, no, you're not getting a nigga pass. But I'm just like, don't say that shit. Because if I'm not with you and you say some shit like that, or you're just with Alasia, white girl, you're going to get your ass whooped.
Yeah, I don't know what this is. I've had this too, where white people feel that because they have a friend that is black or black adjacent, as one white woman called me once.
What?
So
what the fuck?
She really wanted permission to say it. And in the group that it was a social circle for we were knitters. And and where I lived was mostly white, and so there was only a few of us that were POC, and so she was definitely one of those women who thought she wasn't racist because she had black friends, right? And I mean, not a few, like, we would meet once a week and stuff like that. And what we had in common was that we all knit. But we also we also like to talk shit and things like that. It was like, it wasn't like an old lady knitting circle. The age ranges were as young as 23 to above 50, but still it was women who like to talk shit and cap on each other, and it was fun.
Yeah. I mean, but just like with any other social group.
Yeah. But with every few sessions, it would pop up again. Like, why can't I say it? Why can't I say it? Why can't I say it? And so there was a light-skinned black woman there, and there was me. Both of us knew our skin tones were traceable to colonialism in some way, shape, or form. Like, even though my friend's parents were both black, they, she knew that they were light-skinned because of things that happened in the past. And in my case, I'm mixed with like people decided to have babies with white people. So in that case, but it's still on my black side. We know that there is some colonial white in there because our light-skinned great-grandmother and things like that. So we could talk about this, but it was too difficult to try to understand, because the focus of the question wasn't about why you are the way that you are. The focus was, why can't I say it? And we would always say, like, why do you need to say, like, the fact that you need to say it, this is what the part that we need to examine, because I grew up saying it. And I say it amongst my close friends and my,
of course,
and
same way with me,
things like that. But because I am mixed, and because I don't present, and I'm doing my quotation fingers black enough, I'm not going to go into a new space of black people I've never met before and just be like, what's up, like, it's not going to happen. It's only,
it's not.
It takes that time of getting to know someone before, because I understand, I mean, I hate that I'm about to say these words, but I understand my place. As a mixed race person, I'm not going to be quickly identified as black, even though usually black people know when they see me. They still need to know my experience to be comfortable with me saying it, and it's not something I need to say so bad that I'm like, you must accept me. So. Right, so this is the experience, and this woman would every so often she'd need to, like, why can't I say it? Like, why can't I just say it like once, or can't I just say it in front of you, and things like that. And here's the thing. Here's the way I feel about it. If you really want to say it, you will never get permission to say it.
No, there's no, no.
And I am not the person who's handing out the permissions, like the punch cards or something like that.
We're not giving out passes in this motherfucker.
Right. It's such a weird thing that people need so badly. And it's like, you have everything else. Not only that, you can walk into a space without being afraid that you're going to be harassed for any reason.
Exactly.
And, and we have to sit there and be concerned about going to the grocery store and being followed around.
Or driving our cars down the road.
Driving your son, getting a traffic stop, like so many different things. I had, even just last year, I had a white woman following me around the grocery store in my neighborhood, which is, it's near UCLA, so it's actually a mix between like a white and Asian neighborhood predominantly, but there's a lot of Latin people out here, a lot of Mexican people, and black people. So it's a pretty diverse area, but you tend to see more white faces outside. Yeah. I'm walking around the grocery store, I'm being followed around. So like even me with my, sort of tan, racially ambiguous face, even I'm being followed around. And a woman straight up asked me if I was stealing when I was putting stuff in my grocery, my carry bag that I,
Wow.
And it's like, so even at 30, 38, 39 years old, this shit is still happening. So
you're still getting... Yeah.
So to have experience like that, and then to look at this white woman who just really wants to say it, it was such a point of frustration, and it was tired. We were tired of having to always tell her, you don't get permission to say this word, and we're not the people handing out the permission. It's just not the case. And I would explain why, or I would attempt to explain why it was racist that she wanted to say it so badly. But it didn't matter. And her excuses were always the major racist things that people say. But I have black30 I'm not racist. I have black friends.
That doesn't.
I dated a black guy 30 years ago. Yeah, whatever the things. And it was like, none of these things make you it's not okay.
That makes you no less racist for wanting to say it anyway. I don't give a crap how many black friends you have. I don't care if you've dated a black dude. Hell, I don't even give a crap if you've got a mixed race child.
Right.
That still does not give you the ability to say that.
I mean, I will say that if you grew up in the same area type of thing, and you grew up with the same people, and you just naturally said it because of the neighborhood you lived in, let's say an Eminem, for example, like he grew up in the hood, basically
predominantly black neighborhood.
It seems like all his friends were black, but he still can walk around the world. I mean, look, he can shoot up to stardom and be one of the richest rappers,
most successful rappers on the planet.
And he's white. Like a big portion of that is because he's white. Not to say anything about his talent. I'm not saying that he doesn't have talent. He definitely does. But
he does.
But there is also the thing that he is far more successful. Because he is white. But he, I don't know if he says it amongst his friends. I kind of imagine that he does, but he has never said it on a record. And
not even once.
Even said, I won't say this kind of stuff because I'm not going to give a whole bunch of white kids permission to say something, And that is one area about him that I respect,
Of course.
Whatever the other stuff. But like that in particular, he's saying, it doesn't matter that I grew up around here. And like I said, I don't know if he says it around his friends. I imagine that if he does, his like close childhood friends wouldn't bat an eye. But, but if he came to me and my friends, we would, even though I'm mixed, we would still. So it is one of those weird things that people seem to need so bad, and they think that just by being in the presence of a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a best friend or something like that, that is the automatic pass.
Yeah, that gives you nigga dispensation is what it gives you, or at least that's what they think. But what's funny to me is that with the word nigga, like that's been used in rap songs since the late to early 80s and throughout the 90s. But like what we have now is that we have like every single rapper on the planet is using that word to like as a filler word, in their rap songs, which is not a big deal. Because they've been using that word for years in rap music, in rap culture. But I think now that it's become pop culture, like it's just become popular and it's become a a word that is just within the English language, that it kind of gives white kids, like I hear everybody saying it, not just mixed people, not just black people, it's Mexicans, it's white people, it's fucking Chinese people.
Yeah. Well, see, that's the thing. Growing up in Long Beach, everybody but the white kids said it. So there weren't that many of the white kids in our neighborhood, but Asians said it, Mexicans said it, black kids said it. And so in that respect, it seemed more like a hood word versus a black word. There were very rare occasions that I recall where a black kid fought a Mexican or a Asian kid because they said it. It was mostly like if we grew up in the same neighborhood, it seemed to kind of be a pass unless the kid was white. Like they would have to have been. So Dave Chappelle has that joke about the one white kid that hangs out with a group of black kids, that's the most dangerous person in that group because you don't know
have
what
no
he did to get the respect
that he got.
So unless you saw a kid like that, there was very little chance you were ever going to let a white kid say it. I'm saying let with quotation marks that too. Like it just wasn't going to happen. But the Asian kids and the Mexican kids said it without batting an eye. So, and most of the time, black people didn't stop them for it. Unless they called like if they were just saying it like as part of the conversation. Yeah, I'd be like, hey, what's... But if they just rolled up on somebody and what's up? Then that's when that's when it starts a fight. But it's not necessarily because of the word in that case. It's because of the roll up. So
it was also in the connotation that it was used too.
Yeah. So in that case, it's just one of those type of things. But here's something that isn't often explained, and maybe white people will understand a little bit better over time if they get to hear an explanation about that. There is a difference between using the word and mentioning the word. So
of course,
if I'm a white girl who's dating a black dude or a mixed race person, and all of a sudden I'm out here going, my boyfriend is a nigga, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, you can't.
That's
you
the thing that's probably going to get you hurt, or yelled at or whatever. But if you're saying, if you're that same white girl who's dating a black person and you're amongst his friends and you said, and you say something like, and then this person said, that's mentioning it. That's something you don't get fought for. That's something you don't get yelled at for. But people don't always know that distinction, and so sometimes there is the thing. It's like when you hear on the news, I think Don Lemon or somebody was saying it as part of their report, and then people were saying they were offended because they heard the word. It was like, dude, he was mentioning the word, not using different things. So that is something that, like, I hate that it is our responsibility to educate in all these types of things, and it comes a point where, like, I've gone through my periods of time where I would sit there and educate a person, like the second they said something wrong to me or they asked where I was from or whatever, I would stop them and educate them as to what is wrong with that situation. Now that I'm getting older, I don't have time. Like you don't really got time for that bullshit. Yeah, and I don't think it should be. I am who I am. Right. Like I don't think it should be my responsibility. Now, there are some times in which I feel that it's one of those situations where if I don't do it, this person is going to keep, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm going to go ahead. And then there's sometimes when I'm just like, I'm too grown for this. I don't have time, and I move on. I don't. Those are the people I usually make jump through the hoops, the ones that'll ask me the 15 questions and they still haven't asked the question they really want the answer to, and so I'll be like, I'll just sometimes I do that, but for the most part I feel like I'm 40 and I don't have time for it anymore. But this is still an area where I have to stop and say, okay, I don't think it's my responsibility, but if I don't do it, you're probably gonna get hurt one day. Or you're just going to continue to label me in the wrong category or as the wrong colored person. Right. It's not understanding that the N word and nigga are different words. They are. That's the problem. Is that so you? There was a previous episode in which I'm retelling the story of the first time I experienced racism. And I was in 3rd grade, and the little white girl said that she couldn't hang out with me anymore because my father was a nigger. So I tell the story because that's wait. So how old were you? 3rd grade. So what is that like?
That's like
9,
what, 10? Like
9 or
9?
10. Yeah, somewhere.
Wow.
So like I had always known I was different because I had a brown parent and a kind of yellowy parent and stuff, and I knew that my other friends tended to have parents that looked the same. But I also grew up around military kids, so a lot of times we had different colored parents. So I knew that they were different, but the way I understood it was no different than like a lion is, you know, like a fawn color and a tiger is orange. Like they're both cats. You know, that like I understood it probably at that type of level, at that age.
Or like a white tiger is the same as an orange tiger. They just have different color patterns.
So like I think that's how I understood race as a child, and it wasn't until the day that I had to go home and ask my mom, what is a nigger? Because this little girl had said this to me. You know, and that was the day that I learned, and once I learned, you know, that basically my life changed from that moment on. I was now far more aware of my difference to the white kids of anybody else, and
of course.
And stuff. And so I say that, you know, I tell that story, and I got one message where it was like, I can't believe you.
You had to deal with that at such an early age.
The thing is, like, I can't believe you said the word.
Oh,
and it was
wow.
Like, but what I'm doing is I'm telling a story, and I'm mentioning what
the fact that somebody called you
and
a
so,
nigger.
Like, white people are so much more sensitive to hearing the word that they really want to be able to say. They want us to not say these words, you know, and
they're also sensitive to the fact that I think that yes, there are two different, you know, meanings. Nigger and nigga are completely different, but I think that the reason that white people cringe at that is because they can't deal with the fact that they were the ones that invented that word to keep black people in a very demeaned state.
Right. Yeah. So it was just one message, and I had replied to it, but they didn't reply back. So wow. I don't know if they'll hear this and want to respond. But, you know, basically my reply was, you know, I'm not going to be afraid of telling the story the way that it happened. And sometimes racist story, I mean, most of the times, every time, the racist story is going to shock and it's going to hurt. Yeah. And I think in particular what was more disturbing about this particular one was that it was a 9 or 10-year-old girl who said it to me. And so this person is probably imagining, you know, and I mean, it was the perfect storm of racism. The girl was blonde, you know, white, blue-eyed, you know, like the Aryan poster child, you know, type of situation. And so to hear that word come out of that face, that is how it's done. Like that's how that word gets said. And so,
of course.
So, you know, I imagine like someone's like, you know, these are just children. It's like, yeah, well, no, because that child went home. That she had looked at my picture of my father and said, why is your dad brown? I said, I don't know. He's just brown. And the next day she came back to school and said, I can't hang out with you. So what happened? She went home and told her parents, hey, Sharmane has a brown dad. Why?
Yeah, why is he brown?
And her parents said, you can't hang out with that girl because her dad's a nigger.
Wow.
That she may have just been a child, but she learned that at 10 years old, 9 or 10 years old from her father. But who knows what she is like now?
Oh,
you know?
Of course.
Like, I mean, she wasn't going to be out of that situation.
No.
She's going to learn from that parent, and that's going to inform how she grows up. And so whether or not she is a racist person now, or whether or not she would actually recall that memory and be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe
I can't believe I said that.
Honestly, I don't remember her name. I just remember she was my little friend in 3rd grade, and then she wasn't my little friend anymore. So, you know, I have very, so, you know, like, in that case, it really wasn't that person's place to send me a message and say, I can't believe you said that word, because that's a person who doesn't understand what just happened. What happened was
they don't at all.
You know, I mentioned the word because somebody said it to me. Yes. And I'm telling a story. What I didn't do was call somebody a nigger. That's different. But it's just that someone didn't want to hear the word. And then you have to distinguish the difference between nigger and nigga and why they are different, because white people think they're the same word that we just say with a bad accent.
Yeah, like they think that we say that, or that we flip switch it, and they're like, wait a minute, no, you're not saying that correctly.
Yeah, like it honestly
yes, I am.
mean a totally different thing at this point. These are now two words, and honestly could have two separate lines in the dictionary if accepted. In like they are different words, and sometimes words are derived from another thing, and in this case, I think we make the statement that we've taken the word back or whatever, but I don't think that's the case. I think it's morphed into something different now, and some of us say it, some of us don't. That's just it.
Well, yeah, no, I agree with that, but I also think that there's I don't think that we necessarily took the word back. I just think that we put a different connotation or different spin on it. Rather than it being a racial slur, we're going to use this as a term of endearment.
I mean, well, it's a very flexible word because sometimes it's a fighting word, but
of course, that too.
But basically, it's just something that is far more complex than there's only one way to use nigger. There's 11 billion ways to use nigga.
Oh, of course there is.
So they are different. They're different words, and at minimum, white people just need to not want to say it so badly.
Or if they, I would at least, I don't know. They should not want to use it.
There's that. There's one comedian, gosh, I can't remember who said it. So I go to a lot of comedy shows out here, and I wish I could remember who said it, but someone said, it was maybe Roy Ward Jr. or something, I'm not sure. But the joke was something like, you get to have a traffic stop. You get to leave a traffic stop without being shot. So we're going to go ahead and keep the word nigga.
I think that sounds pretty fair.
I mean, it's not even close to compensation, but
no,
until we don't have to be afraid of a traffic stop because we have a light out, then you don't need this word that bad. You just don't need it that bad. That's funny. We went hardcore on this tangent, and we didn't get back to the stuff that we were going to talk about earlier.
No,
this is how this stuff happens. That's why I fucking
That's
love
okay.
this shit. I love having these conversations with people because, well, luckily at this point I've gotten to talk to you 3 times now. So I think I said before, you're the first Black, Japanese, and white person that I've ever met that I'm not related to, and so I was super excited when I got that first message from you. But one of the things that I did want to get down with you is sort of how did you, when you were growing up, how were you understanding yourself? Because you're in a house with 2 white parents, and luckily, I mean, I know I made the
3.
joke about I know I made the joke about woke white daddy, but it seems like your dad really made an effort to not other you, but make you aware of how you would be othered, and therefore was very sensitive about putting you in Black spaces and giving you those sort of things that you needed so that you could kind of see yourself in the world. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about that, because you also have 2 white brothers also?
I've got 3 younger white brothers, yes. And, with that, with my dad being, quotations around woke white dad, he exposed me to a lot of different music within the Black culture, kind of showing me where rap came from, essentially where the underground beginnings of rap and where it originated from in New York and all throughout Philly and all throughout the East Coast rap scene and down towards the southern rap scene and all that. And I learned a lot about that type of culture too. So I'm pretty well versed in that. And then I'm also, he kind of tried to put me in spaces where I would be kind of more accepted and not really put into a box. If I'm hanging around Black people, well, obviously, people are going to see me as Black, but if I'm hanging around white people, I still don't get those kinds. I still kind of have to maneuver in that space of, well, what are you, and then my dad would kind of just tell them without me really having to explain it. He's like, oh, my son's Black, instead of really having to go into this long drawn out conversation of what the fuck is he mixed with,
Right.
But most of my dad's family is white, except for his cousin, who is of mixed race. So I've got a mixed race cousin.
Oh, okay, good.
And my dad's sister, my dad's sister, her daughter, she is dating a mixed race Black boy. So there was really no racism from that side of and even from my mom's side of the family, I didn't really get anything. They were more concerned of the fact that my mom was having a mixed race child with a Black man and what that would be like for me.
So they still loved you and
of course they loved me,
but they were worried about what kind of trouble you would have in the world.
Well, yeah, and then not being raised in a predominantly white family, they were kind of worried more like, oh my God, how is he going to get seen in this world? Obviously, he's, not white. He's more of like a tan, brownish color. And I mean, when I was younger, I was like really light skinned. Like I was almost like white.
Oh, really?
That's
so strange. And most of us say that we're like dark as kids, but we're paler now. You have the opposite.
No, I got the extreme opposite of like I'm whiter than holy hell. And like the one thing that kind of threw people is when my mom would tell them that I was mixed, they'd look at me and be like, "No, he's white."
But you still had
I don't know
the hair, right? Like, because you have extremely curly hair.
Yeah, I did. My curls actually didn't come in until I was about 4 or 5 or 6 years old. My curls actually started to come in, but it wasn't as thick and coarse and dark. It was more of like a kind of like a sandy blonde.
I have cousins like that too.
Yeah, and then it started to get darker as I got older, and so did my skin. So I'm like, okay, well, this is a little odd, but I look cool. I kind of just rocked it from there, And my dad just kind of exposed me to a lot of, just different things, and it was
Cool. So when did your dad come around? So your father left around 2. When did your dad come about?
My dad came shortly thereafter, actually. It was me and my mom for like the longest damn time. Like me and her, it was just me and her. Like there was no other, like she didn't date anybody. She wasn't like, putting herself out there. She wasn't making herself known or as, known as single, so it was just me and her. And that was actually, that was fun, quite honestly, because it was kind of interesting to get that perspective of having, having a white mom and a black child type of experience, because most people didn't really think that I was hers. Yeah. So that was kind of funny. And then, my mom always kind of just made it apparent that obviously I don't look white, and we've had me and my mom have had multiple conversations about me being mixed race. And so to get a better understanding, she kind of did a little bit of research. Like she obviously knew that I was going to have some type of struggles in life.
Sure, yeah.
With me being the way, with me being the color of, the color that I am. But she brought up this
and growing up in the South, too, primarily.
Yeah, that was also one of her other things, that she knew that, okay, if I'm going to raise this child in the South, that he's going to have a lot more things to deal with racially than he would on the East Coast. I mean, of course, that's just kind of the way it is down here. Black people are looked at as, dangerous, savage pit bulls,
right.
Which I think is a horrible way to categorize a black person. I think that's ridiculous, and I think we should stop doing that.
I mean, it's also very rough on children to have to realize that they are considered more dangerous than even a grown-ass, a white man or something like that.
Yeah, it's like, like I'm not going to do anything to you worse off than what a white person would do. I mean, just because I'm big-ish and I'm muscular and I'm built does not mean that I'm any less, like a white person's not any less capable of kicking your ass worse than I could.
Right, yeah.
But my mom brought up, after she did a little bit of research, she kind of wanted to understand of like why I was evoking this fear of getting pulled over by the police. To understand it a little bit more, she brought up this 14-year-old child back in 1953. His name was Emmett Till.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard about that.
Yeah, it's the spark that lit the civil rights, powder keg.
And I watched the video and I saw his face and like this wash of like, oh my, like what the fuck, like, just complete and utter shock of like, she's like, okay, now I better understand as to why you're scared of,
so your mother wasn't aware of the Emmett Till story.
No, she found that and brought that to my attention. Like I was unaware of it.
I see.
And that was a very powerful picture.
Well, his mom was a badass because she refused to have the closed casket. She wanted to make sure that those photos
were broadcasted
because
everywhere.
She wanted the world to know what it was like. And then all these years later, only in the last 2 or 3 years, the white woman who had claimed he had whistled at her, she finally came out and said he had never looked at her. He had never done a damn thing. And so, here this poor child was murdered by the hands of grown-ass men, and not just murdered, like tortured, disfigured, and then chained to a cotton gin and drowned until his body, became all puffy and everything
and bloated.
And then she's been able to have a life, in the world for all these years, and waits until she's an old woman that you can't do anything about.
You can't
fraud.
really.
And it is fraud. Really. What she did was a crime. And she should have paid for it, and she should. I assume she hasn't died in the last couple of years because I don't recall hearing, but
actually I think I found out that I read somewhere that she had recently passed away.
Oh really? Okay. It's the most cowardly thing in the world to wait until you're dying to try to make amends
or of dying age, right? At the very least, I think she was only 87.
Yeah,
that's not that. I mean, that's up there, but you're not.
Some people are still sticking around, later. Yeah. So, it definitely is one of those things to think that, nothing's changed.
No.
You're still every day you're opening up the news to find out that another black man was killed in a traffic stop or in front of
another
a convenience store or whatever,
Yeah. Or but there's not, yes, of course, yeah, you got to open the news and read those things. And I think that, but here's the thing. We also, there's a level of savagery to that, but nowhere near along the lines of savagery as to what happened to Emmett Till. There's still savagery.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
that
there's
was a
not
special level of torture that Emmett.
Oh, of course. But I think that what I think we need to start doing within those cases of the young black men and just black men in general getting harassed and shot and beaten by the police is that we need to change their thought process and what they've been conditioned to think.
Well, I think a big portion of it too, yes. Obviously we have to figure out why races tend to gravitate towards the field of law enforcement, but I think also we need to allow people from the neighborhood to police their own neighborhoods.
I completely agree. Yeah.
But I grew up in Long Beach, and during the time of the LA riots, and the LAPD was notoriously racist when I was growing up.
Oh yeah, they were beating the fuck out of black people.
I'm assuming
they were horrible.
It's still going on because we still have cases that are popping up in the news here and there, but at the time that I was growing up, it was a constant, even I...
Every other day.
To this day, at 40 years old, I still have a fear of the police because I see the letters LAPD, and that strikes fear in me because I grew up down here, and I remember what the LAPD meant when I was a child. And, most of the things kind of get me out of the eye of the LAPD, right? I'm a woman, I'm pale. I'm not darker skinned. I'm not usually in a situation that I have been pulled over by something. There have been 3 occasions where I've been pulled over for something that I felt was faulty, but
But you didn't push the issue or anything like that. You just kind of said, "Oh, this is kind of a bullshit."
Well, I tried to dispute in court versus dispute on site with the cop because
because that's when bad shit starts to happen.
I don't want to get shot. I don't want.
Of course, no.
I don't also want to comply when something is wrong or unjust, but I also know that if I don't have my car set up with cameras, so things like this. But it's been a while since I've been pulled over. But there have been occasions. I also had reported a police officer for dismissing me from a scene of an accident because his friend was the person who hit me. And and when I kept telling him my insurance wouldn't let me, file a claim unless I get a police report, he started to yell and he's like, "Ma'am, get in your car and leave." Well, technically, my car was not supposed to be drivable. I did drive it, but by the time I got to the shop was like, I cannot believe this car didn't fall out from under you. Because I had gotten rear-ended really at a really fast speed on the freeway, and so I reported the police officer because he, refused me a report and made me feel unsafe. Well, this is the scariest thing that ever happened to me with the cops. Really, is that a couple months later, a friend of my husband's brother was over at my in-laws' house, and he goes, "Hey, Sharmane, do you ever report out against a CHP officer?" And I froze because there's no reason why this particular friend who I hadn't seen in months.
How the hell does he know that?
He was a CHP officer, and he had come into town to visit his friends, and so he's like, I saw, he's like, basically what he said to me was, we have a book of people who have reports out against officers, and we are told to keep an eye out for these people to basically cause further harassment, and he said, I saw your name pop up, and he goes, and I couldn't remember your last name, but you're the only Sharmane I've ever met.
What the fuck?
Right, and the trip is that the event happened in Salinas County, which is in sort of like northern central California, and when he saw me, we were in Sacramento County, which is still northern California, but he was working in Southern California at the time. So all of the California Highway Patrol has access to this book, I guess, or this list. And he had seen my name, and he had never met another Sharmane. And so he was like, he goes, okay, here's some tips. If you are getting pulled over by any police officer, he's like, not just the CHP, but a sheriff or a
local PD.
He says, pull up in front of the doors of a grocery store. Like, that's what he told me to do. Yeah, he said, pull up in front of the doors of a grocery store, like where the doors open, because there's probably a camera there, but there's also traffic flowing in and out. And he says, roll down all the windows and talk very loud. Like don't yell, but talk loud so that people can
speak
hear
assertively.
You. Yeah, well, no, not assertive, just loud enough that the people coming out of the grocery store can hear me speaking. So that they can say, no, she was in compliance, or whatever the fuck, because if anything happened to me, he's like don't pull over on a dark road, don't pull over on the highway, because people are just going to speed past. He's like, put on your hazards, slow down, and drive until you can pull into a grocery store or
somewhere that's safe.
Yeah, and so that was one of the scariest things that had ever happened, because I mean, I have scarier things from when I was a teenager, but I was an adult. Like I think I was 23, 24 at the time that happened, 25 even. Yeah, so like I have a what I feel is a legitimate fear of the police, and I haven't had nearly as bad of incidences as some of my black brothers and sisters have had. So,
yeah, of course.
So even to be mixed race and have this kind of experience, I can't help that I am always going to align more with the experience of black people than I am with the experience of white people, because I don't believe I would have some of these things happen if I presented white.
That's kind of the thing with me too. It's like I mean, and down here living in the South, some of the cops are some of them I would imagine are probably racist. I mean, here's the thing: we only have one black cop on the entire local police force that we have here in my town. The rest of them are either white or Mexican. Now, I try to make myself look as non-threatening as possible, but there are days where I kind of dress a little bit more thuggish, I guess. And which, I don't really care. I mean, let people look at me all day. They, take a picture, motherfucker, it'll last longer, But whenever a cop pulls up on the side of me, like I like to, drive with my seat reclined a little bit, because it's a little bit more comfortable for my back, so that way I'm not like sitting fully up and I look like and I just look weird
you're a
doing
big dude too, so you probably need the space.
Well, and I'm short too, so it's kind of like
you can't tell from how
I'm only 5'1".
No, you're not.
I'm 5'1". I'm not tall at all.
Are you serious? Because when I see you, I mean, I've only gotten to see you on the video screen. You look like Rod and everything,
Well, no,
so I
mean,
assume a height with it.
No, I'm actually 5'1".
Did you get that from the Japanese side, I wonder?
No, I got that from my mom's side. My father was actually 6'1". I don't know how the fuck I got the short end of that stick.
Oh my!
But whatever cops pull up on the fucking side of me, like I'll go in a straight up like even though that I'm black, I kind of like drive like a white person whenever a cop is like right on the side of me. I'm just like,
yeah, I think we all kind of straighten up. Yeah.
Let's just act not black right now, because if I don't, this cop's gonna pull me the fuck over. Just smile real big too.
Well, also you have kind of a teddy bear voice, like the difference of seeing you on the video screen versus just hearing you talk is that you do kind of have like a really cheery kind of happy-go-lucky voice.
Yeah,
that's funny. So I'm sorry, we are getting closer to the time. I really enjoy talking to you. You're so fun to talk to.
Likewise.
And so thank you for meeting with me again. The recording on this one is a lot better. I can tell already. And yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
No problem.
All right. Talk to you later. Militantly Mixed is a ManeHustle Media podcast, produced and hosted by me, Sharmane Johnson. Music is by David Bogan, The One. And if you like what you heard on Militantly Mixed, please subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes and wherever you find your podcasts. ManeHustle Media. Turn your side hustle into your main hustle.